Hey, welcome back, guys. This is our weekly update for the 14th of September 2015, and doing these weekly updates has been an interesting 3-month experiment. As far as news goes, some weeks it feels like there isn't very much going on, and some weeks it feels like there's almost too much. Based on the comments we're getting, or not getting as the case may be, there isn't nearly enough interest in what's new to keep this as an ongoing weekly concern. However, we're finding this format is the perfect way to address some of the interesting comments and questions. So let's try our next experiment. This is going to be our last update, our last news update for the foreseeable future, but we're going to continue with our Q&As for a bit and see where it goes. So, there we go, nice, sacrificial knife. 7. Soul medallion, nice. Alright. So that's our rewards of this week. For the quick update on Mortal Kombat X, there's the Cold War Sonya Blade Challenge, 2 levels of difficulty, 2 copies of her card available, and 1 copy of her gear if you complete it on the hard difficulty. Alright?
In WWE Immortals, we have the Conqueror Brock Lesnar Challenge, which is new. It's an excellent challenge. Like the poor man Shazam, little slightly worse version of him, with the ability to do some no-cost special 2s, but only once per match. Interesting enough that we plan on doing a video highlighting the latest Brock. Hopefully you guys will see that soon. For Injustice, the Ibis Stick, which starts out as the mysterious artifact and evolves into the Ibis Stick, gear season, finished last week. It fully deserves to be a 4, evolves into 5-star gear, and if you're unsure about fully evolving it, check out our other videos where either a Bronze Catwoman or Silver Nightwing abuse Boss AO Batman.
Yeah, I love those videos. Like, it really shows you when you've got a character that has so little damage, the Ibis Stick scales up to handle a Boss Gold character with more than 200 health.
Yeah, it's the perfect scenario to demonstrate where the Ibis Stick shines the most.
Okay. That's our quick update, and now on to the questions.
Esteban Perez. I literally had to mute the video for the whole time.
Okay, literally. I do not think that word means what you think it means. I get the question really is, how did you hear enough to know that we would offend you if you literally muted the video for the whole time? You know what though? I won't complain. You watch the video.
Maybe he watched part of it, had to mute us, and then had to go all the way back to the beginning for an unfettered experience.
That's really it. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to mispronounce your name, and I'm sorry for this. Jaeleen Trejo. Trejo? No clue, sorry. Okay. How did you get that much coins? Hack or cheat codes?
Alright, so we actually have a FAQ, frequently asked questions, up, and we'll put the link in the description, but our original plan was to put the frequently asked questions on our About page, but they were too long to fit, so we put them up as a post on our channel's discussion page.
Okay. So, Rick Blevins asked...
Alright, so these are going to be 2 questions that are sort of related, and we're going to answer them together, I think, right?
How surprised were you guys for the Darkseid Repeat Challenge? I have to say, I'm liking the surprises, and I hope some one-run challenges are repeated down the road, like Godfall Superman and maybe Killer Frost, along with some new card challenges again very soon. I'm still curious if Regime Shazam and Insurgency Ares will be offline challenges. Those 2 cards have been talked about and rumored for a long time now. And our next question comes from skipfin. I have a question for the next weekly wrap-up. Why the hell did NetherRealm think it was a good idea to bring back old challenge characters?
Alright, those are interesting questions. Would it surprise you if we said that we didn't think it was a bad idea? There's a few points that dovetail really nicely. First, Batgirl and Zod were really very early challenges. Many, and let's go out on a limb here and say most players don't have them unlocked in their store. And, alright, some of you are going to argue that they're available in challenge packs, but those are a bit of a mug scheme. If you want to fully promote either one, or Darkseid, Zod, or Batgirl, you'll be spending a lot of credits for a chance at getting them. And with the Cloak of Destiny, Batgirl is one of those top tier characters, definitely worth getting to Elite 7. I wouldn't want to spend millions of dollars buying a bunch of crap challenge packs hoping to get her up to getting another 7 copies of it, right? And besides which, Martian Manhunter wasn't even ever available on Android, so no one on Android has them unlocked.
Yeah, true.
Second point, the first repeat challenge, Batgirl, was shorter than normal challenges, and so is the current Darkseid one. So that bodes well because you're sort of taking away the long delay between one challenge and the next, and you're not stuck with one particular challenge for weeks. Right?
And I guess also the third and final point is that it's easy to forget that the alternative to a repeat challenge isn't a new challenge. If you've been playing as long as we have, you'll remember some dark times where there were no challenges and no new content. The developers do need time to create new characters or even reskins of old characters. And it's not a bad compromise to have some special content, even if it is a repeat. The developers have done a really, really good job so far of keeping us taken care of and keeping enough updates to still fuel the game long past when most mobile games would be way, way more boring, right? And so any momentary slip or time that they need to buy for themselves with these new challenges isn't really hurting us. And it gives a lot of... For the people that it gives opportunities to get them, it's good. And for the people who have to wait an extra week, it's still something to do that's a little bit more interesting than having nothing.
Right. It's not bad to have some special content, even if it is a repeat, right?
Yeah.
Now, some of you may be arguing that they would rather have repeats of animated Batman Beyond or Superman Godfall or Red Sun Green Lantern. And that's entirely fair, since these characters are pretty useful, and we see them a lot because people play them a lot in online play. On the flip side, though, these guys are relatively new challenge characters, so it's a small percentage of Injustice players who are missing them.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was probably a conscious decision on the part of developers to not repeat recent challenges in order to avoid the lamentations and the complaining of players that Injustice is dead because, see, they're repeating challenges from just the last few months.
Yeah, I still like what they're doing, and I think no decision that they'd make would be perfect, because some people really want challenges to be brought back that they haven't experienced, and some people don't want any challenges to be brought back because they've already got everything, but I think they're doing their best to help everybody out and make the game as fun as possible.
Yeah, and in answer to the last point, Rick Blevins' question is, it'd be interesting if there's some more online sort of exclusive characters, but I'm really hoping that the rumored Regime Shazam and Insurgency Ares are offline challenges because there's just too many
online rewards.
Yeah, there's too many exclusives, and the time it takes to cycle through all of them, it's got to be frustrating for some of the people who know about them and don't really have any chance at all, even if they're willing to spend big bucks to get those characters.
Yeah, and it's awful having to wait months for something to be fully deleted. Okay, so our last question of the day comes from Lisa Peacock. Hi guys, my question is on Injustice. I keep trying to crack the top 10, but it just doesn't seem to be possible. Y'all help me get in the 1%, so do y'all have any advice? Thanks. Love the videos.
Alright, this is sort of the big one, and this really interesting question. I love this question because the short answer is, how much of a life do you want to have for a week? Because, alright, anybody who likes to look at the math, let's take a look. Finishing one ultimate battle will get you about 56,000 battle points maximum if you're fielding a maxed out gold team, so 5,000 a fight with a 21,000 bonus for finishing the 7th fight. And in the last few seasons, the number 10 player, so you have to beat the number 10 player to get into the top 10, had, at the lowest was the low 4 millions, and the highest, I believe it was in one of the exclusive seasons in the last 5 seasons, 7.4 million. So you were looking at 7.5 million to get in the top 10.
Yeah, for most of them, the other 3 that we looked at were somewhere around 4.4 million.
Yeah.
Give or take a bit. And so you gotta expect to play a little more though, because if you're beating people, you gotta expect some other people might step up their game too, right?
Right. So yeah, like at an auction, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so if we're going strictly by offensive wins, and we'll take into account defensive stuff later, but let's look at it offensively. If we're looking at offensive wins, that's a minimum of 76, that's on the low end, the 4.2 something million. A low end of 76 successfully completed ultimate battles.
Which is a lot. That's 532 individual fights. And even more than that, if you only get 4,000 or 4,500 in the first fight.
On the ultimate ladder.
Yeah.
Right? And with the load times, switching out teams and switching gears, you'll be lucky, I think, if you average around 15 minutes per complete ultimate battle.
And that's with the fast team.
Yeah, so we're looking at a minimum, like,
Bare minimum
of 19 hours to scrape into the top 10 if you're winning every fight and you're using a maxed out team. So that's almost 3 hours a day for 7 days.
And that number goes up if you run out of recharges and need to field a less than maxed out gold team. And it goes up even higher if you lose even a handful of the 7th fight in an ultimate ladder, like completely cheating yourself with the 21,000 bonus.
Yeah, and don't forget, of course, this is the minimum stuff, right? So don't forget we're talking about the quietest of the last 5 seasons. With the busiest, that minimum number is 133 ultimate battles, or 931 individual fights, almost twice as much time to complete it.
Which is like 34 hours.
So now, the elephant in the room, what about defensive wins, some of you might be saying? Well, there's at least a few considerations here, right? Alright, so first, it's really informative to take a look at the actual leaders in the top 10. If you ignore the hackers, the ones with impossible battle point totals or totals that are completely out of keeping with their wins, defensive and offensive combined, very few of the legitimate top 10 rely on defensive wins. There are probably a few reasons for that, and we'll get into that in a moment. And 2, the number of defensive wins you get is completely out of your control. I mean, you can create a team that will draw a lot of battles, but it's hard to make a team that will win a lot. So we know that Godfall Superman, Darkseid, and Shazam are the 3 big magnets. Magnets being
People that attract battles.
Right. And putting them all together will draw a lot of defensive battles, but the win percentage is low, because they're not really hard to beat no matter how you gear them up. So on the balance, whether you stick with a straight magnet team to get more fights, or switch some of the magnets out to win more fights, there's a limit to how much you can get out of defense.
Yeah.
Now, if you ignore the outliers that you'll see on some of the discussion boards, with an optimized defensive team, you can reasonably expect about 50 to 100 wins in a season, right, depending on how busy a season is. And that's with optimum gear. And that's going to fluctuate depending on how busy the season is, right? Higher when you have special season rewards. The more you play offensive battles, because the more you play, you're going to actually get fewer defensive wins, because good defense teams are usually poor offense teams, so you've got to be switching back out, and while you're playing, your defensive team isn't registering.
Yeah. So the more you play, if you're playing almost non-stop, you can't rely on defensive wins at all, because your defensive team is going to be your offensive team, and that's not going to help you.
Yeah, and some things are even completely out of your control, right? So, for example, the number of people who will rage quit against your team so that you don't get credit for the win.
And also the number of people who, in any given season, use the same team as you and decrease the number of defensive fights that you get.
Right, because in terms of the matchmaker, what you're getting is they're looking at the stats and splitting the battles. Now, we don't know exactly how it works, but there is actually, it makes sense that the more people that are playing a specific team,
yeah,
you're going to only get a smaller portion of the pie.
If there's 200 people playing a defensive team versus 400 people, you're probably going to get roughly half as many battles, because as long as they're all Elite 7 and level 50, their stats are going to be the same. With all the support cards and stuff, they're going to have an equal chance of attracting the same battles that you used to be attracting.
So, getting back to the short answer to the question, what you really need to do is be willing to commit a huge amount of time to play if you want to get into the top 10.
Yeah, if you're willing to have half a works week worth of hours just put in to only playing Injustice, then you stand a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the questions, everybody. So, like we said earlier, we'll probably come back next week, but with a different take. It won't be so much the weekly updates as Q&As if we get some more interesting comments and questions.
See you guys next time.